The book of Revelation, chapter 14, and chapter 14 starts off with a very new scene. In chapter 13 we leave off with the beast introducing his seal, and where it tells us how important they make the seal. The beast makes his seals. They make it very important to the earthlings. And I'm sure you're familiar by now with the terms I'm using, the earthlings and the beast and all these things. Who are the earthlings?
People who are left behind.
The earthlings are the ones who love the earth. The book of Revelation talk about a group of people who love the earth. So I call them the earthlings, not the human beings. The larger majority is the human beings, but there are some earthlings. They are the people of the soil, the people of the earth. They're so much in love of this earth, in love with this earth. Sorry, they're so much in love with this earth. They are the earthlings. So the earthlings do not want to give up the earth. Have you come across such people?
Yes, their
What?
possessions, their land, their possessions.
The land, the property, the position. One of the things is they don't want to die. See, the more you live, the more you enjoy this land or this earth. So, they have all kind of health insurances and all kind of things, and spend their whole life trying to dwell on this earth, but everybody ultimately, eventually has to die. And that's the good news. Everybody has to die. Let us imagine what's going to happen with this earth that has plunged into sin. With sin, if people are not dying, you can imagine what's happening. So the good news is people die. Okay, so the earthlings willingly will receive the mark, because for them the mark is the savior. Now with the mark they can buy or sell. That means you can live in peace. You can have your provisions. You can pay for what you want, or you can sell what you want, and so it's like your ticket to live. And so they're very happy to get the mark. And by the way, what was the mark?
Number of the beast.
What is the mark? Okay, what is the mark? Okay, you're partly right. You're partly right. Huh? The mark is his mark. Remember that. It's not his number. It says, one minute. Let us first get it in perspective or in the progressive order. First of all, it says it is his mark. Okay? His mark is his identity. Is this clear so far? So an identity not necessarily should be a number. Isn't it right? An identity could be
Symbol.
a symbol. You could have a chicken head for you, for example, as your identity. Or a duck feet for your identity. You could have anything as your identity. So it is his mark, it is his identity. Okay, and we saw, as we inferred from Zechariah 17:11, one of the prophecies that is there of this worthless shepherd is that he will be wounded, fatally wounded, and but he will not die, but it will wither off his right eye and his right hand. Okay, so his right eye and his right hand will become worthless. So he is turned into a white, one-eyed jack or a pirate look. He'll have a pirate look. So he has a sign. It could be the pirate patch. It could be the one eye that is left. Who knows what's the sign? But the word of God simply says it is his mark. Then it goes on to say, verse 18, this calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast. Now, he's got a mark and he's identified by a number. This is clear so far?
Yes.
At least what we see in the text. The earthlings will be marked by his mark, but he's got an identity by a number. He's identified by a number. And that number can be interpreted.
We count it.
You can interpret the number, and from that number you will get his name. So it says it calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let them calculate the number of the beast. So the number that identifies him has a calculation. Now, many have tried to calculate, and there are many results that have come out. And through the centuries, people have been matching these results with Hitler,
Pope.
the Pope, the American presidents, and whoever they don't like and whoever they like, and it somehow comes out to this interpretation. By the way, the number is 666. Did anybody see the movie Omen?
Yes.
In Omen, they show the 666 printed on his head. Okay, and that's kind of make it very spooky and like okay, it's happened on its own and how it's come there and some kind of stories built around it. But by the way, those kind of movies and that generation is responsible for making this 666 a famous number or an infamous number. In English, both the ways means famous. Okay. So it's a very infamously famous number, and everybody, if anything they know in the book of Revelation is 666. And they straight away ask, but what's 666? Now forget the rest of the book. I want to know what's 666. The next question they'll ask is, who's the Antichrist? Because you know certain things about the book of Revelation, and these things only spring up the most. And thanks to the media. By the way, so anyway, so as we come up here, we see it shown that it is his identity, and he's identified by his number, the number 666. Now let us interpret this. By the way, the interpretation is only in the original language. You can't use English. All the mistakes have been done using English. Now this letter or this book was not written in English. We are reading it in English. Everybody who interpreted it had interpreted it in English and have got very sincerely wrong. You know, because they give powers to the number, like A is 1 and B is 2 and so on and so forth. And so they come to 6, 6, 6, and so, okay, you have the power of the alphabet to it, and so they write, for example, Trump. And so T, the power of T, and as his spelling goes, and they sum it up, and somehow they sum it up, they add it, divide it, minus it, and they come to 666. They somehow work it out, they cough it up, and so they say, okay, Trump is 666. That's how they come to. By the way, it's not in English. It's not supposed to be done in English. It is, you could only use two languages, that's either Hebrew or Greek, and both these languages have got numerical powers to the alphabets. And so, by default, their alphabets have got numerical powers, and so you can calculate to that. But the point is, what is his name? Is the biggest question. Now, I can show you something from the Word of God. And yes, you can go ahead and spread the information because it's the Word of God. Please do so. It's not my word. It's the Word of God. And the Word of God interprets it. So, you want to interpret it? It's very simple. What does the number 6 stand for? Incomplete. Man.
The sixth day.
Okay. So man is created on the 6th day. Man is incomplete, and it's a number of man. So this guy is a man, but an incomplete man, and sadly, being created on the 6th day, man being created on the 6th day, cannot accomplish anything much. That's why they need Jesus. So what's his name? His name is a useless fellow, without Jesus. What's his name? He's not even a full man. So That's why he's called a beast, right? If he was a full man, he would be called man. He's called a beast. So he's not even a man. So he's not even an incomplete man. So in being incomplete as a man, having a little part of the beastly nature in him makes him more incomplete. So he's a very incomplete fellow, pretending to be a man who's very incomplete. And the number 6 itself is so incomplete. And this guy is somehow a very worthless fellow. That's why Zechariah chapter 17 calls him the worthless shepherd. He's trying to be a shepherd, but worthless shepherd, because he's an incomplete beast. Okay? 666. So you got his name? Thank you. Any questions?
Second and third.
Yeah. Sorry, 11. Sorry, thank you, sir. 11, 17, not 17, 11. Okay, so shall we now hop over to chapter 14? No answers.
Yes.
No, okay,
Yes.
thank you. I thought we should close up for today. Otherwise. No. Okay. Then I looked, and there before me was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. So there's a clear shift of scene. John is seeing all this is happening, that the beast is offering and the beast is doing, and then he looks and he sees the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. So there's a contrast of scenes. On one side is the beast and all that he's beastly doing over there, and all the kind of pomp and show and power that he's presenting. On the other side is the Lamb. Now the beast is presenting himself as a beast, but the Lord is not presenting himself as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He is presenting himself as the Lamb of the world. Here he is coming with the attribute of a very humble being, in the sense, the Savior of the world. He is the Lamb. He is the beast, but he is the Lamb. You see, the world has been given into the beast's hand for 3.5 years. It was a lamb that purchased the world. The Lamb of God who purchased the world. So there's a contrast, but there's a reality show over here. The beast did not purchase the world, but the Lamb purchased the world. So the Lamb is standing on Mount Zion. And this is where the controversy picks up. The Lamb is standing on Mount Zion, and with him are the 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. So the Lord is standing there on Mount Zion, and the 144,000 are there, who has his name and the father's name. Remember, they put a seal was put on them. That was the Lord's name and the Lord's daddy's name, or Abba's name, on their heads, on the 144,000's head. So if on one side the beast is putting his sign on their foreheads, the Lamb has put his sign on his servants' foreheads. And the sign of guarantee.
These are Jews.
These are the Jews, 144,000. These are the same 144,000 that we saw previously in chapter 7. Okay? And so, these are the 144,000. If you go to 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 21 and verse 22. 2 Corinthians 1, 21 and 22. Now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us, set a seal of ownership on us, and put His Holy Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. So what has God done?
For the seal.
He has anointed us, set a seal of ownership on us, and the Holy Spirit as a deposit in our hearts.
Established us.
Yeah, He's established us and put His Holy Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. So, the Holy Spirit is in our hearts, it gives us peace, keeps us at rest. There's a seal put on us. God has put a seal on us. And before that, what He has done? Last night, remember the word?
Yeah, the anointed.
That's why you need to sit with the Bible so that you can see it and mark it and recognize the verses. Very important. This is the word of God. But by the way, I forgot to tell you this. This evening, when Sam walked in, he was talking about, at least come for the Bible study, and it's so important. Then he went on to say that I testify that I am blessed since I have, receiving from the Bible study. And I just want to remind you this evening that God loves His word. And the Gospel of John starts off by saying the Word is the Lord Jesus Himself. And God loves Jesus, and He was the Word, and the Word became flesh. Jesus said, "Heaven and earth may pass away, but not a dot or a tittle of my word will pass away." This brings its fulfillment. And so, if you spend time with the Word and love the Word, God will bless you. He loves the Word. Whoever soaked in the Word, he raised the Word. You check out in honest. He raised the Word. Whoever soaked in it. In our company, we simply decided to have a Bible study every morning. We were nobody on the map. We decided to have a Bible study cover to cover. We started off. Every morning, one would come, two would come, then the whole hall filled up. We just read a chapter, understand it, carry on with our work. The Lord picked us up from being nobody and nowhere to bringing us around to the map where everybody got knows. And if you know my beginning, you will understand what I'm saying. There's nothing I can claim for myself. But one thing I can say, for sure, it's the word of God that has brought me this far. So the Lord has put on us the seal of ownership. Thank you, Lord. So, in contrast, the enemy also does the same thing. He will duplicate everything God does. Is that clear? So, he is duplicating and he is putting a seal of ownership. So, taking the seal is being owned by the enemy. Is this clear? The enemy wants to take ownership of the earthlings. The earthlings don't know they're getting deceived into it. God has taken ownership of us. The enemy takes ownership of them. And he puts a guarantee in our hearts. The enemy puts a guarantee in their hearts of the things to come in the future. So that's the end of them. Okay, we are coming to that as you stay on over here. We're still in verse 1. Okay, and so we see that the 144,000 who were with the Lord as shown here as the Lamb on Mount Zion had on their heads, on their foreheads, the seal which was the name of the Lamb and of his father's name, written on their foreheads. Verse 2. And I heard a sound from heaven like the roar of rushing waters, and like a loud peal of thunder. The sound I heard was like that a harpist playing their harps, and they sang a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. And that's how the interpretation gets twisted. So you see the Lord on Mount Zion, you see the 144,000 there, and then you see the scene in heaven. Are you with me so far? Are you understanding this? So what it is interpreted as is that these 144,000 are now in heaven with the Lord. Okay? And there's a song being sung, and no one could learn the song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. Is this being understood by you?
No rapture mentioned, not these guys.
That's what is being interpreted. That's what is being interpreted. That's the point.
Only then.
We'll come to that. We are coming to that. But first go with this, with trying to see the flaw of interpretation. I'll show it to you. What you infer directly from the surface is that they are in heaven and the creatures are there, the elders are there, the throne is there, and everybody singing a new song. And the new song is only learned by this group. Okay? Now follow with me and I will show it to you. First of all, you got to understand that the group that points it out to this chapter and this particular verse and says that this points out to mid-trib are actually saying that they belong to the 1,44,000. Okay, so that's a very sad number. If you look at it that way, that means it's a very small group, and so I'm saying it's a very sad number to be in heaven. And if the mid-trib only consists of the 1,44,000, what about the rest? Okay, and then if you say that they are the 1,44,000, but we see that from the very book that they are Jews from the tribe of Jews, and these guys claim to be the 1,44,000. Somehow there's a mismatch. So that does not work. But still, it seems like they are in heaven. It seems like, you could point out that it is, or you could say, a small group among the rest who are in heaven, and so they can again draw it out that way. Anyway, but come back to the verses and look at it carefully. It says the Lord is on Mount Zion. And Mount Zion also is, Mount Zion also is.
Jerusalem.
Yeah, tell it loudly.
Jerusalem.
You're the smartest student in the class. I'm just saying it over Samuel's shoulder. Thank you, Lord. So if Mount Zion is Jerusalem, the land is standing on Mount Zion. And the 1,44,000 is there. So why are we mixing it up? Because it goes on to say, and then I heard a voice from heaven. Does it say that? Yes. So standing on Mount Zion, there's a voice from heaven. It doesn't say we are all in heaven. Does it say that? So why do we infer that everybody is in heaven? Are you with me so far? So this is where the mess up happens and the mix up happens. Now you could ask, then why, how come you see the Lord there? Now listen to me. That's because we don't have the interpretation of heaven stuck in our brains. The Lord Himself talks about bringing kingdom of heaven to the earth, correct? So how difficult it is if the Lord is present for heaven to be present on Mount Zion, even if it is in the mid of trip. Are you with me so far? Is it difficult? Is it that the Lord should not show up at all? No. It's Mount Zion after all. It's His city after all. So He showed up with heaven because that's His dwelling. And there the 1,44,000 is there. And so what we got to notice is none of them have been lost this far.
So this was before they got.
We'll come to that. We are not even saying that they are raptured so far. They still on Mount Zion. That's the interpretation right now. Only thing the Lord is there to greet them and empower them and strengthen them and to talk to them and converse with them. And the Lord likes to do that with His people, with His servants. The Lord's presence is there. How many testimonies you have of the Lord appearing and speaking and talking and telling and directing and informing and blessing? How many testimonies are there? So why it's so difficult to understand this over here? Are you with me so far? Are you getting this? Any doubts, Cliffy? It seems like you don't agree with me. Okay. All fine? Okay. So the first phase of it. First go with me slowly. Let us not jump. The first phase is, let's first of all gather our thoughts to understand that the Lord has appeared on Mount Zion and the 1,44,000 have appeared there. If you want to imagine this, okay, the beast is on the world, throne, so to say, in his powerhouse, so to say. He's screaming out and bellowing all his proud claims and making his remarks and his false promises saying, "Take my mark, and I will take care of you," and don't listen to that guy, and basically what he's doing, and the Lord is on his one side, and his faithful servants who are sealed by him. It has to be established that if they're doing a duplicate job, we don't know what's in a job. It has to be established, and so they're there in the world's capital, Mount Zion, and the Lord is there to acknowledge it. Is this clear so far? Is this painting a picture in your mind? Settled? Thank you, Lord. Yes. Now, if you want to look at it, that the one like 44,000 is in heaven with the Lamb on the Mount Zion, which is also an interpretation of Mount Zion being in heaven. So be it. So be it. If that's what keeps you happy, so be it. It could be a scene. It could be a scene played out in chapter 14. To put it on record after chapter 13, that even we have sealed our servants on Mount Zion. Not necessarily the scene, it has to fall in the mid. It could be a scene that is being played out over here, because everything anyway is a scene in the book of Revelation. The John is seeing. It's of the days to come, correct? So he's seeing a scene, a preview of what is going to happen. It also could be a pre-trib rapture of this group. It could be. But that is very rare because you don't have supporting scriptures for this. Is this clear? You don't have supporting scriptures for this. If you want to boil it down to a mid-trib rap, okay. You shouldn't lose your salvation over it, that's the point. You shouldn't lose your salvation over these arguments. Okay. When we are all taken up, we will all know for sure. And over there's not going to be arguments. We're all going to be happy. But this way or that way, we have escaped. Because if we make these arguments here, we may miss the actual rapture. Tell me.
These 142 guys, they were sealed by God in chapter 7. They were on the earth.
Yeah.
And only the two witnesses were raptured.
Exactly.
So these guys were on the earth.
Exactly.
They were doing the work of the
The
Lord.
two witnesses were killed, and so they were raptured.
Correct.
You see, there is no sign of these guys being killed.
Yes.
And so the transformation of their bodies and being in heaven and all those things is something that is inferred or imagined or pushed into these verses. If it is so, it is so, okay, but don't let us not argue about it. What we saw was what we understood, that he sees the Lord on Mount Zion, he hears the sound from heaven, in heaven there's worship happening, and the song was learned by the one like him. That's the same.
And they were responsible for getting saints of tribulation converted on the earth.
Yeah. They are appointed and anointed to preach the gospel.
Because the church was not there.
Of course. So they are the end time shepherds or leaders or evangelists or the ones who are called God's witnesses. God will always leave back a witness of himself on his creation. He doesn't leave his creation without his witness. Okay? Thank you, Lord. Verse 4. These are those who did not defile themselves with women, for they kept themselves pure. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They were purchased from among men and offered as first fruits to God and the Lamb. No lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. Now you could ask the question, are men being defiled if they union with women? Because it's here. This is the only verse you will find where it kind of goes against God's eternal advice, important instruction to mankind of marriage. But let me clarify this to you and let me spell it out to you. In this context, where there is so much happening on the planet, and where the beast has risen to rule, and we know that the beasts are not fully human, that's why they call the beast. They are genetically engineered or half human and half everything else. The genes have been tampered with and they got animal genes in them. Hybrid human beings. That's what they call beasts. In a setting like this, to come to this point, a great majority of earthlings also would have become beasts to produce the ultimate beast. And so this verse says, they have not defiled themselves with those women. With women. They have not defiled. That's the same context in which Noah is called righteous among the people of his generation, where he has not defiled himself with the people who are genetically impure, that had produced the Nephilims over there. That's the context where they have not defiled themselves with such people. In that context, it's spoken, so just chill. It's not about, okay, women make me, impure, and then run away to celibacy and serve the Lord. That somehow does not fit over here. Okay. But verse 5 is very interesting. What does it say? No lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. Wow. Why it's the lie? Because so much of lies will be there, so much of lies will be spoken in that day. Verse 6. Then I saw another angel flying in midair, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. So, now being introduced over here, an angel at last in chapter 14, after the 1,44,000, the two witnesses, and all that is happening on the world in the world, now an angel has come with the gospel or to proclaim the gospel. And this angel is a flying angel in midair. In midair, this angel is flying around and giving the gospel. Now, I don't know how you can imagine this, I don't know how you can, relate to this, but that's what it is said over here. And so, there's an angel around there in midair. And so, he's got eternal gospel and he's speaking to every earthling. It says, what it says over here? To those who live on the earth. That's an earthling. And then to every nation. So, there are earthlings from every nation, language, people, and tribe. There's earthling there. The people who love the earth are from every nation, language, people and tribe. He said in a loud voice, fear God. So what's the eternal gospel? He is changing it. There is a slight upgradation of the gospel. Fear God. You're going to fear Him. That's His message. Fear God and give Him the glory, because the hour of His judgment, the final call, the hour of His judgment is going to come. Fear Him. He can judge you. That's the eternal gospel that He is proclaiming. The hour of His judgment has come. Worship Him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water, the fountains of the deep, the fountains of water. So worship the Creator, not this fellow. And the angel is proclaiming the gospel. Now, what more do you need to tell the earthlings? Who more you need to tell the audience? Such a powerful gospel is being preached, but these guys rally behind them because they fear their life. They want to live. They want to live for this earth's sake, and they fall into his lie, and so they all go because the beast knows who's worshipping, who's not worshipping, or the beast will kill and all those kind of things. So they are not listening to the gospel. And God is giving them a final chance, a final proclamation of the gospel. Verse 8. The second angel followed and said, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries. Babylon, the cradle of all religions, the birthplace or the place of Semiramis, Nimrod, Tammuz, and the birth of that one religion which became the universal religion with different names and different presentations all over the world. Fallen, fallen is that great Babylon. Why two times fallen? Why is that fallen is great Babylon? Why two times?
Confirming.
Confirming it. Anything twice said in the Bible is very important. It is going to fall. God has made up his mind. He's emphasizing it. God has made up his mind. That's why God says it twice. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. Okay. Which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries. That means people literally, held Babylon so great, the great esteem, Babylon the Great. They were maddened by what she was doing or what she had to offer. The world was so caught up with Babylon. And the third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast, this is reinforcing. If anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on the forehead or on the hand, he too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. He will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb. So, you worship the beast or take his mark, and you are done. You have no hope at all left. You will burn in that sulfur. In front of the angels, in front of the Lamb, you're judged. You're over, you're finished. Because that mark is to own, ownership. So the information is there, and the angel is telling them there at that very moment. Can they say we never knew? The angel is going all around the world and telling, don't do this, don't take the mark, don't worship that beast, worship God. Who's listening? I wonder who's listening. Okay? So again it says, if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives what? Receives what? His number? His mark. He's receiving his mark, not his number. Okay, on the forehead or on his forehead or on the hand. He too will drink the wine of God's fury, that's God's anger, and it's at full strength poured into his cup of wrath. So that fellow is finished off. And the smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. That means the torment never ends, the smoke never ends, and it goes on forever and ever, eternally. Whoever receives it. I mean, this is dreadful judgment. There is no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and his image, or for anyone who receives the mark of his name. The mark is of his name. If anybody, his identity in other words, anybody receives it, he is done. This calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's commandments. This calls for patient endurance. That means, don't give up. Patiently endure. Don't give up. They will torture you, they will scare you, they will pressurize you. Receive the mark because the more the merrier for them. But you patiently endure.
These are the saints who have just come to the
Yeah,
Lord.
yeah, it's talking about the Lord.
No, just come to the Lord.
From the 1,44,000, from the three angels who were just talking to them. Listen, endure it, patiently endure it. Instruction for it. But you don't receive the mark. Endure it patiently. So they will put you through a series of whatever punishment. One of the things is you can't buy or sell, so you had it. In other words, you can't buy or sell. Uh, the carrots in the backyard will be over, the chickens will be over, whatever, I don't know. How will you survive? It's a great deal. It's not easy. But endure patiently. So verse 1 is again this call for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's commandments and remain faithful to Jesus. Verse 13. Then I heard a voice from heaven say, Write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. This is a strange verse. Oh, very interesting, important, and a very strange verse. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. From now on. What it says from now on? It somehow tells you that these fellows are struggling here or enduring over here, and tells you that they need the encouragement. And one of the things, the greatest thing that could happen to them is dying. Blessed are those who die.
Beheadings. Beheadings and all.
Yeah, beheadings or come to an end of it, of the suffering. And also tells you from now on, in other words, the rest has been taken away. From now on, you endure. And if you are called for death, you are blessed. That's what it's talking about. So it clearly says the rest have been taken out. In other words, you hang in there and you will get it. You cannot be taken out of it. That's how it has been written. Are you with me? Any questions? So from now on, this is the process. Before this, that was the process. Because everybody will be on the knees, take me or take me. He also might take me also. From now on, it's going to be death, man. It's written already. Are you getting it? Because we fall to these traps. We try to twist the arm of God by fasting and praying and crying or whatever. Chain prayer and see all this.
So there's no rapture now. It's over.
It's over.
Even for these guys.
Yeah, you will die. It's
So
clearly given there.
They have
So
to
where's the post-trip now? It's not there.
They have to face that.
Is it clear? So the post-trip. Okay. Let's say hang on and we'll take you out. Write it down. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them. Thank you, Lord. What will follow them? Watch your deeds. It will be weighed. Your deeds will follow you. Many say, grace is sufficient. Yes, it is. But the book of Revelation clarifies that. Watch your deeds. That's in other words, watch your acts, watch your actions. Because if you fall to the lie of the grace teaching, many fall to the lie of it. Do what you want when grace is sufficient. That's a lie. That's the devil's lie. That's demonic doctrine. Be careful. We'll come back. We'll come up with another verse on the deeds. When it comes up, we'll see it. But right now, keep it in your, tuck it in your memories, and we'll pick it up later on. So again, I'm reading that. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labor. So dying will bring them rest. From what? From their labor. For their deeds will follow them. Thank you, Lord. So that brings us to the end of this portion and opens up a new portion in the same chapter, which talks about another scene altogether, a completely different scene. Now, if I get onto this scene, which is, in other words, the scene of the Armageddon, it's going to consume some time. So we'll close this evening study with this much and pick up this scene next Friday, which is the harvest, the grape harvest. It's not the wheat harvest. This is a grape harvest. And so there's something that we got to learn or see in this, which we will do next Friday.